So he said, yeah, he said to get started. Sorry, my dog's going to join in. So welcome everyone. You have to go outside. Sorry, get rid of my dog. Do we have any apologies?
Yes, I have an apology from Fiona McQuaid, the Property and Commercial Manager, and an apology from Angela, although I'm not sure if she's joining us a bit late.
Okay. Okay, so we need to...
So David must just be a bit late as well, so I was talking to him earlier, so I expect him to be here.
Oh.
David's on.
David's here. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Quiet. Hiding away. Oh, there he is. Yeah.
I'm frozen.
Across some more.
Okay, so we what do? Move the minute and move the apologies. Do we need to do that?
Yes, we can do that.
Okay.
Okay, moved Councillor Cox, seconded Leanne.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And there's no one who wanted to join the public forum?
No, nobody this time.
No, nobody. Okay, that's good. Any declarations of interest? Anything? Okay. Right. What do we need to do next? Sorry.
Next is confirming the minutes of the last meeting.
Okay. So minutes of the last meeting on 3rd of February.
Can I just let you know that I made a mistake in the minutes when I said that Councillor Cox was a member of the Liquor Licensing Committee. Should have been Councillor Leslie and Councillor Murphy, so I've made that correction.
Right, thank you. So we move the minutes with the correction that Arlene's just told us. Oh, yep. Thank you, Leanne. Right, so where do we need to go now? Sorry.
The Community Board financial report.
Yeah, okay. Any questions on the financial report? Yes, Murray?
Yeah, I've got a couple there. Just looking at the drone footage for the village green, I just wanted to know whether that was for the toilets and whether that should have come under the toilet budget. One of Brian might know that.
To you, Madam Chair. Not really, no. It was more that we've been talking about doing an updated landscape development plan for the village green at some point in the future. So it just seemed the opportune time to get some good aerial photography when we had a guy in the district doing all the other parks and areas. Yeah.
My other query related to the new financial year, which was the 20,000 that came across, and we had been querying that right through, because I think last year was 42,000 and it went down to 20,000. It's interesting in the budgets, we're actually showing budgets for next year. It was showing 0 in the long-term plan, and I think someone's might have put 30,000 in there now for next year, but we need to confirm that, because we basically lost 20,000 here, because last year we were 42,000. It's dropped down to 20,000, and in the long-term plan showing 0. So I don't know whether I can talk to Sandy about that. It's just that we seem to be losing money. And
I can answer that. You've got it as an action point. You raised it last time, and there's an action point to actually for council to consider it in the annual plan. So
Yeah.
the annual plan hasn't come up to you. We did talk about the draft of the annual plan.
The annual plan's got 30,000 in it.
Yes, well, so yeah, and so it's a decision of council. Yeah, the issue that you've got to decide what your projects want to be, what that budget needs to be. It is money you're taking off ratepayers. So if there's no projects for it, so you've referred it to the annual plan because we can't do it as staff. So basically, you know, the only thing I would say, if the community board want to make a recommendation to council to put to whatever they wanted in that annual plan, we've made it, as Brian had already said, to match the kind of level of projects that we've been supported. It's so, you know, but if you want to make another recommendation and adjust it, it would be a recommendation the community board would make to council, because basically it would have to be altered in the next annual plan, which you haven't adopted yet.
Yep, that's fine, and I'll do that. I'll talk to the community board about that, because
Yeah.
I think when you say there's no projects and it reflects the projects, I go back to the long-term plan and the fact there was no consultation with the community boards over projects. So, and there's plenty of projects that are needed around Fairlie. So I'll go back to the community board and then come back to council, because it's yeah, I keep hearing these excuses about it's not in the long-term plan, and it, you know, the reason is because we weren't asked about the long-term plan.
Well,
so
I'm not quite sure who's saying it's not on the long-term plan. We gave a way out that we can put into the annual plan, and so, you know, why don't we put it to the community board now? We're at a community board meeting. If you'd like to put if the community board would like to put a recommendation that goes to, you know, 40,000, 60,000, 100,000, you put that there and we'll carry that through into the annual plan. It's just that I can't do it as a staff member. It's got to be done by council. And so, you know, basically we're at a community board meeting. My worry, Murray, if we wait for the next community board meeting, it might be too late. So maybe it's worth having a discussion on it now.
I think,
Yeah, sorry, Murray. I was just going to add my bob's worth. We've normally had a discussion with the community boards prior to the annual plan as such. And so get a bit of an idea of what the community boards are going to require for the coming year. We haven't actually done that this year. We've just put some money in on what sort of projects are on the books, so to speak. So maybe the community boards needs a wee bit of time to just consider what they're wanting to spend their money on, but they haven't got long before that comes back to council.
yeah, well, I think we could do that offline and bring it back to, it can surely come back to council if we talk to the community board and it comes back to council for council to move that. I mean, obviously you've already got on here, we've already got the dog park and the village green. You've just spent money flying a drone around it, you know, to do something. So we've got bike stands, seats, you know, like there's about 100,000 in there probably.
Yeah.
And we've, you know, we lost 20,000 this year. So I can't see why it can't come back to just go to council as a recommendation.
And I fully agree. That's what we expect. And I think I wonder, Arlene, just from a timing point of view, could we put a resolution that the community board have an informal meeting and be empowered to make a recommendation to council? Maybe I'm just trying to think of mid-April, maybe. Council will have to do, well, they don't actually have to approve the annual plan until June. The issue that council does have to make, if there was big changes, they would have to have time to consultate, but I don't think that the change that you'd be recommending would be enough to push us over the consultation limit. So, you know, but maybe that, you know, would a fortnight be enough, Murray, or 4 weeks or something?
Yeah, no, I'm sure we can do that. Everybody's around.
Yeah, that'll be fine. Yeah, if we say, yeah, within the next couple of weeks, we can informally make a decision about that. And
And if you you don't need a resolution to meet and discuss it, but if you would like to come back to me when you know what you'd like to recommend to council, I can make sure that that gets dealt with as quickly as possible.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I just think it would be really good if the community board does have that informal talk amongst themselves before they come back to council.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good, Graham. Thank you.
And certainly from the community point, if the community board wants any support from staff, thinking more around Brian's staff is probably where the projects are likely to be. We're perfectly happy to help you. You know, if you've got some projects and you want some ballpark estimates for them, let us know. Sooner you let us know, obviously, the sooner we can think about what it might cost. But if you want any staff support, we're happy to give that.
Okay, thank
Agree,
you.
Madam Chair, and just to reiterate that there's possibly a few things we've got in mind as well that you might not sort of necessarily think of. So it's probably worth having kind of a shared discussion around what you're thinking of and help with sort of budget ideas as well.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds great. That sounds great. Hi, Damo. Welcome.
Hello. Apologies. A little computer trouble, but I'm sorted now.
That's great. We were just discussing what we're going to do moving forward with the township budget. So that's going to we will informally meet and make a recommendation to council to put into the annual plan. So we need to discuss what, you know, how much money we think we need. So that's where we're up to.
Cool.
Yep. So yeah, so that was just out of the financials. So was there, yeah, I guess if there's nothing else on financials, Damo can take back over if he likes.
Thanks, Ange. Right, so where are we up to now?
Have we received the financial report, Arlene, or do we need to do that?
Going quiet on us, Arlene.
Okay, can we receive it just in case we haven't, and then we can move on to 5.3, Mr. Chairman.
Right.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
My apologies. I didn't realise I was muted. Thank you.
Thanks, Arlene. Can we move those financials be accepted, Arlene?
I think you just have. I had Angela moving, and we just need a seconder.
Someone like to second that? Thanks, Murray. All in favour?
No.
Is there any? None, carried. Okay, 5.3, Community Board General Update. So on this, first action point on this is a Fairlie Cemetery Memorial Wall, which is on page 15. So I see there that they've come up with a different site to what we originally looked at, due to some clearing of some trees and the like. Brian, would you like to add to that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I didn't know too much about that until it arrived on the council agenda for earlier this week, and I haven't actually heard the result of the discussion from that council agenda item. So, David, but yes, I was somewhat surprised to see they were proposing that circle location, which I have to say is probably a better location than what they were originally looking at. So we're fine with that. We were just planning working on some landscape sort of replanting of that site, but we can incorporate the wall into that, okay. And Francie is trying to organise a meeting with us on Monday to progress things. So any further advice from David about what the council decided on Tuesday?
The council approved it in principle, but not a location or a design. There was some discussion about the height of it. There was discussion about the location, recognition of the RSA and maybe the need to do that. So I think they've helped me here again, Your Worship, or Murray, but I think that they basically delegated it to the community board and staff to work through the final design and the location so that it met the community needs. Is that a fair summation, Murray?
Yeah, I think
Yeah, that's dead right. Sorry, David. The one thing we did want is make sure that the community was all on board with it, but I think that's pretty much a known.
Yes, and the other recommendation I was made was the other key point of going into that area is agreement and from the RSA. Part of that sort of process would be quite key to that sort of area. But they may have already discussed it with them. So I was a little bit out of the loop, a bit surprised. Yeah, it's only changed.
I don't believe the discussion they have. I think they just saw the opportunity once you'd cleared it. It looked like a good spot. And I don't actually think, help me again, Graham or Murray, but I don't think they'd actually decided on whether the final height was the height that they wanted. They were quite open to any changes. I just wonder whether there's, Mr. Chairman, an opportunity for maybe a representative or a couple from the community board, Brian and them, just to kind of finalise all the details and maybe bring it back to the next community board meeting or something, finalise the design, finalise the location, maybe.
You're
Yes,
quite right.
unfortunately, Les was quite actively involved, so we've lost that link a little bit, so possibly need somebody to fill that gap.
I think Leanne's actually been a point of contact from the War Memorial Committee to the board. So would you like to speak
I
to
will.
that,
Thank
Leanne?
you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I've been talking with Francie, and I'm surprised, actually, surprised by some of the comments, but I haven't talked to Francie because I forwarded the report to Arlene for the council, because I advised them that was a first port of call for them was to actually get permission from council to actually put the wall up, and that's what they've done. I advised her at the time that the height of the wall is going to trigger a building consent. And she was adamant that the design would not change because they wanted to do it the first time. And I said, that's fine. I just need you to be aware that there's additional costs associated with the building consent and, structural engineering required, all that sort of stuff. So I just left that because it's not for me to tell them how it looks. I wasn't aware of change of area, but as you say, David, I think they probably just took an opportunity after the trees had been cleared and thought, oh, that looks a lot nicer. So yes, I would definitely have to get consideration from the RSA, would be pivotal in that decision making as well. I would actually like them to present to the community board. She was also very adamant that it's driven by the community, not by council or the community board, that we're supporters. And I explained that that's exactly how things should be operating, that it should be community led with support. And I have also I've given her the contact details of Aaron and Brian regarding resource consent, and then obviously the facilities side of it as well. And that's all I know.
There has been discussions around building consents, and we've got a process through where they can get an exemption, but it will still have to need an engineer to design it and do a PS1 for us, and then when it's finished, a PS2. So we have a way that would actually streamline it, but it's of such a size, as you're right, it will need to go through a process of approval.
Yes, yeah. So as I say, Mr. Chair, I would actually encourage them to come and present. If they were still wanting to have ownership of this, I do think that they should at least front up at the next community board meeting, to tell us all about it, particularly if there's been design changes and we're not aware of it, because we were only shown what Les showed us. I have got some photos on my phone of the copies at the Heartland Centre, because it's not openly, it's not well advertised, it's in the hard copy, which is great, but just to make sure that we're all on the same page, I suppose, essentially.
Yeah, I agree, Leanne. I think that would be a good idea for them to come and present to us what the final concept is and the location and the like, and then we can get it underway.
Yeah, so Mr. Chair, I can contact Francie after the meeting and see if she can tee up a Zoom or something.
I'm afraid that they had quite a bit of technical difficulty using Zoom for the council meeting, so they may need some assistance with that.
Yes, I would definitely be offering my assistance to that, Arlene.
Mr. Chairman, rest assured council's right behind it and we'll support it all the way. I think it's a great concept and it'll be a great project for Fairlie.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks, Graham.
Yeah. Sorry, and through Mr. Chair, I have also said the same to the committee, that Francie's done an amazing job of getting the committee together and she's got some great support there and she's very determined. And I said, look, the community board are, 100% behind it. So that they're feeling pretty confident, and they've also had a lot of interest even before the things built about people wanting to buy plaques. So it's encouraging to know that people are actually going to use it.
Yeah, and I believe they were sourcing their own avenues for some funding and the like. Is that correct?
Yes, sorry, I'm just muting myself in between. Yeah, they've got $5,000 from the Heartlands that have been funded from the secondhand market on Saturdays, and then the golf club and Lions, I think, are also willing to commit funding once they've got approval from council that the memorial wall can actually be built.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Farron.
Did
Anyone
the council approve a grant towards it? Sorry. Did the council approve any funding towards it?
No.
We asked for some concept plans and we needed to understand a bit more because it's still very much in its infancy and we needed a bit more around it before we went to find some money.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay, next on the list is the dog park. So,
yes, Mr. Chairman, I believe we're now ready to progress that after a little bit of internal dialogue. We've made a decision just to move ahead with that from an internal staff point of view, and I believe the community board are hopefully supportive of that. So I've sort of put together a budget to get us underway, sort of broken it roughly down into two stages, and so the cost estimate's fairly broad brush, so we'll see how we go with the fencing and clearing the area and getting some basics done, and then look at maybe what that cost is, and then what we might want to spend further on some additional kind of features and landscaping, etc. So I'm requesting a budget of 33,000 to allow us to progress from that from the township budget.
Well, that's great. That's great. Thanks, Brian. It's nice to get that project underway and a decision finally made and see it be in action. So thank you for your work on that. Do we have a timeline on that, Brian? Do you know? Or
as soon as we can reasonably organise it. We've got quite a lot on at the moment, but it's reasonably straightforward first few things, so we can hopefully get that underway in the next month and see some action there in a couple of months, 2 to 3 months. Yeah, certainly by the end of the financial year, I'd like to think we'll have the area cleared, and sort of if we've got to re-sow any of it, how much levelling we quite need to do when we have a slightly closer look at it, get the fence in. Yeah, I hopefully had it ready to go by June would be, I'm always over optimistic though. Got reminded at one of the other meetings the other night, but we'll do our best. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Thank you for that.
I'll move recommendation 2 then.
Yeah, and I'll second it.
Murray's moved that and Anne just seconded it. All in favour?
Yep.
Against of any? None? Carried. All right. Next one is TIF projects.
It's following some feedback from the community board last meeting regarding the exact location. We've done a bit more kind of tweaking around with that. So they've got some plans that are attached, which shows what we believe is now kind of reflecting the various views and balancing up between other bits of infrastructure around that site. And main objective has been sort of keep it well clear of the memorial. Not sure we've actually got the updated plan there. 'Cause my last little tweak we wanted to do to the plan was to not have the path going all the way to the memorial. That would stop before we got to the memorial. So slight correction on that plan you're actually looking at on the agenda.
Okay, just on the final plan of the toilets, Brian, we as a board had a catch up last week, and it was discussed about the actual roof profile of the structure, whether or not that could be altered to maybe stay in theme with the shelters of the picnic tables and that, to kind of keep it all uniform. Would that still be feasible at this stage of the project?
No, not easily, or within that would cost a significant amount at this stage, and probably be a step backwards, we believe, from the design theme. I can share some of the. I'm sort of aware that there's been some concerns about the design not reflecting a perceived sort of railway style of theme for the park, which I'm not really aware of anything else that's been done in the park other than there's a railway carriage in there. And so you've had some discussion with the designers, and I think that would be quite a retrograde step and would really require a different sort of design rather than simply doing that. So I could share again with you, or share later with you, the design sort of rationale that they're looking at, which was much more to reflect the peace tree. They were trying to pick up the peace tree and the canopy of the peace trees was their objective, and the fallen soldiers being their strong sort of design guiding theme, and to build something contemporary and modern as well, rather than kind of looking at a historic rather and sort of structure, or looking backwards. So they're trying to look forward and looking at what's there now, was their kind of approach. So
okay.
Through Mr. Chair, as you can appreciate, you know, we've had some kickback from the community already about the design, and we've, you know, and not been given the opportunity to at least have some input into the initial design would have been helpful, because we possibly would have learnt this information about this supposed railway theme a bit earlier. It's it has created a bit of angst within the community.
Yep. What's the time frame on the construction of the toilets, Brian? Like, are we tight for time? Is that some of the issue, or?
Reasonably, we've got a deadline of June the 30th for our TIF funding, but to be fair, the TIF funding haven't actually put a deadline on it, and certainly the dump station, which is funded similarly through the TIF fund, we're not probably going to get that done in June, because we're still trying to sort out a location, so that's kind of on the back burner a little bit at the moment. So it's probably going to be delayed, but certainly the current contract has a June deadline where we wanted to try and push these through. We felt MB normally get a bit twitchy if things don't happen reasonably quickly, because they're supposed to be sort of projects that are kind of ready to go. So that's our current time frame that we're working to.
We might also add, Mr. Chairman, with the next round of TIF funding is opened, and we're now looking at projects going forward. It's always a bit embarrassing, probably, if anything, when we're told, well, you haven't spent the last round and you're applying for more. So we do need to keep these projects underway. But that's not to say that we shouldn't have agreement over what we're doing.
Mr. Chairman, I am going to meet with Anne. I'll make a time with her next week. While I'm going to be in Fairlie tomorrow, I'm just busy, but I am going to be in Fairlie next week as well. And so I was going to meet with Anne and talk her through the information that Brian has sent. I know that Angela has sent some of that information to her and had some discussions, but I'm sorry, I just haven't had the opportunity to meet with her prior to this meeting.
Yeah, no, that's understandable. I know everybody's busy. Murray, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good option if David does meet with Anne. But I just wondered what was the final cladding that's going on the outside of it? Was it?
It's a stone, river stone cladding.
So it is the stone cladding, which is the same as the council building and
Yes, I believe so. I got I can share the final plan with you. It's sort of a smooth cladding, so it's stone, but a little bit different probably to the office. I could share that with you to try to sort of remind you of what we were doing. I think I presume I can do that.
maybe we could just wrap it in. Quite good. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't like to think that it's too much different. Yeah, see, to me that actually looks a lot different than a stone that we've got everywhere else.
Agreed.
I don't, you know, like it's not the same as anything else that we've got. So, because that's a square cut stone, it's not a river stone. It looks like it's square cut rather than round. So I
have a look at it. It's multiple different sizes and shapes, Mr. Chairman.
And it's not great. So I would be. I think, yeah, I think there'll be a bit of disappointment in terms of maybe it's not actually fitting into what's already around and what actually you see close to it. It's my thought anyway. I would have thought we would have kept with the same river stone that we've already got. Even if you don't like the river stone we've already got, you still need to keep with it probably because it is a theme. So
yeah, through Mr. Chair, it's quite prevalent through you know, the golf course have it, and there's many buildings that has it. So it would be good to be keeping the same tone of the stone and shape.
Yeah, I think everybody's in agreement of the facility itself is absolutely fine. It's just what the actual cladding is going to be, so that it doesn't look like it is something totally outside of what's basically in the township now. So yeah, perhaps maybe Brian, if you are going to discuss with the people manufacturing whether we have got some other options that we could possibly look at, because we don't want to have something there that's going to create a whole heap of negative feedback to us and you guys as councillors due to the fact that the cladding just isn't quite in sync with everything else.
Mr. Chairman, I think, Brian, we can actually raise that. Whether we're too late to change it or not, I couldn't make that, you know, I couldn't inform you. I think there's a couple of things. Obviously, I'm not quite sure how we go ahead with future projects, because I do think that the design and build kind of concept that we got in this place, we were looking for innovation, we were looking for something different, but maybe in future we should discuss the specification of the design and build with the community prior to going out on that design and build specification. If we're looking for something different, something flair, something, you know, in line with how we're doing, and we'll take that on as a lesson learned. Are you happy if we go and talk to the designers, express your concerns about it, see if it's too late to change? If it's not, we'll see whether they can easily adapt it. But if there's a lot of these blocks have been manufactured off-site and will be carted straight there. If it is too late, do you want us to stop the contract? Because that would be significant, or potentially could be costly, obviously. Or are you happy if we try and negotiate as much as we can along the expressions that you've given us now, if it's not too late? But yeah, I'm just wanting some guidance, really.
I think if you can have that discussion in regards to the cladding options that we've discussed and put forward from a board and a community point, I think that's would be a really good start, and see how you go with that.
It's likely to also lead to changing the paving as well. So just notice that sort of matches in. And I'll just, yeah, so it's likely to be some variation cost. Changing the cladding might not be as bad as kind of changing the whole roof design, which would, yes, certainly the designers, you know, it'd be quite a rich grade step to go to create something. I guess, yeah, they'll try and push back on it because they believe they've created something contemporary and it's modern rather than looking backwards. What's been done 20, 30, 50 years ago. Why not do something, yeah, more contemporary? And it might be a little bit controversial, but it'll put the town a little bit more on the map, make people comment and notice rather than just all blending in. So it's just reflecting a little bit on their feedback. What I'd say, we did present this plan when we awarded the contract to the community board previously, and we didn't get any of that feedback. So this negative feedback and now this rethink's only really been generated by one person. And it is, even if we tried to, you know, consult with everyone in design by committee is very difficult, and even getting approval. But having said that, I did expect some pushback at when we initially presented it. So I was somewhat surprised, yet, other than the issue around location, it was okay a month ago. That's what point I'd make.
Through Mr. Chair, Brian, I did raise the last meeting about the colour of the stone, and that it would be preferable that it matches the council building and the townhouses beside it, because obviously what is presented, it does not match. So it was actually raised at the last meeting.
Yeah, I agree. Was right.
Pick that up. Yeah.
And we also didn't actually have a picture in our agenda. That was brought up at the meeting. So it was only appeared on screen at the meeting because it wasn't in our agenda.
The only other thing I'd say, Brian, and to looking at those concepts is the paving, is that to match the stone on the walls? Because it looks like it's quite flat and potentially slippery. That's a concern for me, for people using it. I mean, you know, we just would like you to take it to the designers or whoever the manufacturers are and say, look, we'd like to see if we can have another option, if you like. So if you could put that to them, and we look forward to hearing your feedback, that'll be great.
Okay.
Thank you for that. Anybody else anything on the toilets, or we move on?
I'll just make the comment, it may be not going to be the same sort of stone, but it could be the same tone colour. I think that would help.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. That's a good
point about we don't want a slippery surface. That can be certainly a danger. So we need to address that. And yeah, the pictures certainly look like a glossy finish, which won't be ideal.
Just with our sorry, Leanne, just with our environment around here, Brian, obviously you'll be aware that, you know, we do get heavy frosts and tricky conditions during the winter months especially. So we'd hate to see something there that's not practical and then have an issue which is similar to what Timaru experiences when the tiles get wet or the floor coverings get wet and it becomes slippery and dangerous. That's all.
Yeah.
Leanne?
No, I was just going to say, would you not be matching to the existing walkways that there, so when they link in, that over time that they will hue to the same colour versus having a different paver or whatever, you know, having multiple different material used for paving? Would you not use the same as what is already being used?
Yeah, I think that's our general consensus and concerns from the board point of view anyway, is just to try and keep the claddings and the like as much as possible in accordance with what's existing, just to try and keep it all the same. I think that's where we're coming from, Brian.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else to add? No? Okay, we'll move on then. To the dump station, Brian, obviously you're looking at other options, so that's on the back burner at this stage. Would that be fair to say?
Yes, we haven't managed to progress that with other things we've had on a plate at the moment, other than we're looking at some similar sites we identified earlier, which just need to do some more work on how feasible they are. Probably looking more at state highway type sites, sort of yeah, either the domain entrance area, but part of that's been closed off, so there may be roading. The ability to exit back onto the road there is probably a problem with NZTA, we suspect. The other side opposite the fire station would require an easement through the fire station property for the sewer. That's a good location, but other than that issue, so we can explore with the fire service whether that's a possibility. The other possibility is the other end of the town and some sort of the median area where, can't remember, I always forget the name of that road. It's not Grey Street, might be Grey Street, comes out near the golf course. They thought there was a sewer line there. So there's a few other options around that state highway. The main issue, wherever we put it, where there's residential properties, we're going to run into problems with residents not being happy with it being, even though it's not very obtrusive, there's no real smell issues, still having camper vans gathering around it. Yeah, it's still just going to be problematic. So it's, yeah.
Have you looked at the?
Yeah.
Have you looked at the other option down by the flax mill, which is straight across the road from the sewer ponds, where it's basically a commercial area anyway, industrial?
Yeah, that's the other side, is to go further down there, put it there on the road verge opposite there. It sort of counters some of the arguments from those on Talbot Road, which didn't like the traffic, but then we still seem happy to go further down, but you still get the traffic. So, yeah, that's a possibility too if the other sites determined to be too hard. Yeah.
Yeah. And has anybody been in contact with the Gladstone Hotel in regards to, in the short term, re-establishing that dump station?
So services have kind of advised that we'd be, I guess, we're happy to pay the water charges, and with the only issue that could be made operational again, because that seemed to be the only stumbling block. If we rely on that, though, it still is vulnerable to a change of ownership there or change of use sometime in the future. So we then again wouldn't have a public dump station, so we'd be reliant on private supplies. So I think, well, we've got the opportunity, the funding to put a public one in. We should continue to pursue that. So the hotel one is sort of a fallback position, really, last resort.
Yeah, I was thinking more in the short term, so that there is a facility usable until something is found or perhaps established.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thanks. Yeah, we haven't. I don't think we really actioned that directly with the hotel owner. So good point. Yeah.
So will somebody look into that? Or?
Yep, we'll follow that up. Yeah.
Cool. No, that's great. Thanks. Anybody got anything else to add on the dump station? No. Cool. Township furniture.
Hey, Smith. You've probably already answered this question, but yeah, we've probably confused you a bit last time, but this is probably what we're proposing. I think it's what you'd largely agreed to this sort of style. I think so. Maybe this item may be largely redundant now, I think.
Yep. I think we.
Yep. Same with the bike racks. We can action that and get that underway. Is that be the go?
Actually, can I just say, Mr. Chair, that I did send Tom an email on the 4th of March. What we agreed on was the Portland set.
Yep.
Not the Westbrook.
Yeah, I was thinking that name wasn't the same. I was thinking it was the same style, but happy to go with the Portland one if that's what you'd looked at.
Yeah, and to be fair, we probably were a bit late in getting that response back to him for writing this report. So because we met and then we're like, oh, crackers, we haven't responded to Tom. So what we did say was the Portland set was our preference, as long as the bench chair had the option of arms, because we weren't sure, and that would be if we could use the wheelchair friendly picnic set to make it as inclusive as possible.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
So that's
bit of overlap around, I think. Yeah, that's all right.
So you'll get that underway, Brian?
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Thank you. All right.
That might conclude my my report.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Yep, that's everything under that agenda item. Do we need to move that those recommendations be moved and accepted?
We've already resolved the one to spend the money on the dog parks, so there's no need to do any further.
Cool. Excellent. Right, engineering managers update. That'll be you, Joni.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and everyone in the meeting. I apologize, I've had my camera off. I've been kicked out of the meeting twice because of my work connection, so hopefully I won't get kicked out while I'm speaking. So if I could just go through the contents of the report with you guys. Water quality standards are being met. We are starting a water replacement project here at Fairlie. We've done similar work in the other two towns. The areas we plan to work on are Mount Cook Road, Main Street, and Allendale Road. What we're going to, Rooney's is going to ask for is a setup space or an office space on that big green boulevard, if you will, between Denmark and Mount Cook. Just trying to get my bearings. So that'll be visible for you guys as you're driving around. I think you also know we're going to try and put in a new Fairlie water treatment plant. We just got an agreement with the landowner in writing for purchasing the property where that will be set up. And I did the measurement. It's a bit further along State Highway than our current intake point, but it's a good spot for us to work on that. Then we can look at wastewater. We've started here now in Fairlie with our desludging. Just kind of anecdotally, it's never been desludged. Usually this is done maybe every 10 years or so. And so we're on a kind of a 50-year, I think it is, desludging project. So that's important that we get it done. So we're starting on that. We've also been CCTVing, sending a little camera through the wastewater pipe sections. And we have seen several sections of pipe that need some sort of repair. And what we would probably recommend is it's called slip lining. You send a piece of a plastic tube through the pipe, and then you expand it and you cure it in place, and it's the new lining then for the pipe where there's sections that have been cracked and so on. So it prevents high groundwater tables, which is an issue here in Fairlie. It prevents groundwater from coming in through cracks, which currently is happening. And then it also can aid in preventing rainwater from coming in, which will happen as well through cracks and things. We want to get some of that work done before June 30th, actually, the pipe lining. So I'll be bringing the council more information and the sections of pipe that are going to be upgraded. Just so you guys know, because you might hear about it from the community, our wastewater sections in Fairlie run through private homes many times, through backyards, not under homes, but through backyards. And the procedure for doing this kind of lining work is to open up the manhole on each end of the section of pipe. And then you do the work on the pipe. So nothing will happen or be noticeable for the landowner where the pipe goes through, but they will see crews setting up, a block away or so on at the manhole. But we're not expecting any kind of damages or anything related at all to the property owners. This work is done all the time. So it's got a visual, aspect for the property owners, but there's nothing that could affect their backyard, their garden. Stormwater, we were remiss in getting our official approval from ECAN for stormwater disposal. So there's been a big project to get us properly up to date on that, and it's almost, it just turned in last week, I think it was. Yep. So I think we got that done. We'll wait for ECAN to come back to us with any comments that they have, but that went very well. Roading, ongoing maintenance work in the area, nothing unusual for the roading team. And then, and Dave, I'm kind of hoping you kind of talk to this one a little bit if you have some more information. Waka Kotahi is going to do some improvements of the property at the dog kennel corner. And I think I don't know exactly what they had planned there, Dave. Are you able to talk to that? Yeah, you're on mute.
Sorry, I've gone off mute. Yeah, my understanding is that they're looking at setting up a site there where there may be the opportunity to recognise some of the Maori history of the area. I think they're talking about the establishment of a POU, which is kind of a welcome monument, I suppose. I'm not sure. But at the moment, my understanding is that there's a big area there anyway. So it's just the start of getting that area, because a lot of people stop there and tidying up that area. And then they're looking at future. I haven't seen any plans as yet, but I know that they're talking to local or the Arawhenua people to see what's there. So probably that's all I know.
Thanks, Dave. Any questions on Three Waters or roading from the community?
No, not for me. Thanks, Jenny.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate that. I'm gonna go dark again.
Thank you for your time. Okay, that about wraps that agenda item up. So now we're on to general business and a councillor update. Do you want to do your update there, Murray? Have you got stuff to share with us?
Yeah, just a couple of updates. One is that with the LTP being approved, obviously that the green waste bins were approved. So you would have seen, I think, on Facebook, or some of you have seen on Facebook, that they're going to roll those green bins out on the 21st of March. And I think Fairlie's day changes in terms of bin pickup. So the green waste bins will be every week, and they'll be about the same size as the yellow bin. So I think David's probably got some more info on that if he wants to share that later. But in terms of what can go in them and what can't. But so that was a good news story. Obviously the annual plan's underway, because we talked about that before in terms of getting some amendments in there, maybe for our project money. Once that's approved, obviously that'll determine the rate take for next year. At council the other day, we also approved the district plan review in terms of the project plan, if you like. So consultants are now in place, and Aaron has all his staff in place to do the district plan review. That will probably take about 3 years to go through, but it is a rolling plan. So the priority sections of the plan will be done. First, and then roll through. So it means that we will be able to have rolling hearings as well, so that we're not doing everything at once, and we'll change through that. So that's really good. So so hopefully we'll be able to update you with that as it goes through. Yep. Other than that, I don't know whether Graham's got any more on that, but that's about it. That's the big ones that are happening.
Oh, sorry, Murray, I couldn't even pick up half the time. You faded out on us a bit.
Oh, sorry, must be me.
Didn't come over. Do you want to have another go at it?
Okay.
We heard a bit about the green bins, and then you kind of went a bit funny.
Okay. So the other bit was around the district plan review. So obviously the district plan review was more or less approved at council the other day in terms of the project plan for it. It will be a rolling plan, so that the priority areas of the plan will be done first, and it'll probably take about 3 years to get through that. So it will be quite flexible, and we won't be doing, so it's not going to be everything at once. So there will be rolling hearings, and allow us to go through and do the changes as they're needed. So Aaron and his team are all in place, and the consultants are in place to do that. So we'll give you an update on each of those areas as they come up, and what's happening within them. Yeah. So I think that was about it.
Great, thanks, Murray. Yeah, I've heard some really positive feedback about the green bins around the town. That's for sure.
Yeah,
I think it'll be quite popular with the locals. So yeah, that's a great thing for the town.
Mr. Chairman, if I shared my screen, I'll just show you the publicity that'll go out to Fairlie with the bin. I think, can you see that now?
Yep.
So you'll notice that you're going to go onto a new curbside collection day, Friday. So we've put this across the bottom of the bin. So this gives you a bit of an idea of what can go in it. But on the back side is actually a guide to all your bins. So what can go in the glass bin, recycling, organics, rubbish, and what you have to take to the resource recovery plant. So hopefully that will help people decide in which bin, since they're now going to have 4 of them, a red, a yellow, a green and a blue, where things go. And things that, you know, sort of like household appliances, you can't put your oven in the green bin or any bin, have to go to the resource consent. So hopefully that will help people guide. But the biggest thing, because we're getting trucks immediately out of Timaru, we've had to change your collection day to Friday. So that's going to be just that little change. I think you've got it on Thursday, so it's only one day later. So it's not as if people are going to have rubbish and stuff overflowing. The new bins are also, you may or may not know, are the big 240 litres. So certainly a lot of room for people to put clippings and garden waste and household waste and lot. So that just gives you an idea of what we're intending to put out to everyone.
Oh, that's great. Thanks, David.
Through Mr. Chair, there is great excitement in our house that we're getting a green bin because we had one in Timaru before we moved up here. So Joe found out about the bins yesterday, so he was like very happy. So well done.
Excellent. Does anybody else have any other general business? No, everyone's all happy. Oh, that's great. Oh, well, without further ado, I'll thank you for your time. Special thanks to you, Ange, for taking the reins for a starter. Leanne, you got something you'd like to add?
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Chair. Just on the action plan, we were going to ask Brian about the community centre kitchenette. Run an update on that.
No, sorry. Yeah, other than the contract's now been let, so but I haven't had an update on what's happening other than what I would have told you last time. And I can't quite recall what I told you last time, but should be happening soon. So we got a contract, we've got a new cabinet maker come in and do it. So I'll follow that up tomorrow and just email you all next week. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
I just wonder, Brian, whether you want to give the community board an update on the peace trees.
Yes, good point. I'll get the screen back. We're just working through the final sort of procurement documentation for the tree maintenance project. I've got one of my colleagues, or Chris Rutherford, who you may have heard presenting to you previously, has been working on that and just getting some of our other staff to review his documentation hopefully next week, and then that'll go to the market very soon, and hopefully we'll start seeing some action in 2 or 3 months, more than likely. So
Through Mr. Chair, sorry, I'm just looking through the project list. Arlene, have you managed to ask the question about we had talked about in recognition of Liz about doing a grant for a trade apprentice?
You asked for a scholarship, I understand.
Right,
yes, I talked to Angela, Chief Executive, about that because I felt it was her decision in a way because it would require staff resourcing. So she was planning to be at the meeting today and talk to you, give you her thoughts on that. She said to me that we have a part-time role, which we haven't filled yet, for somebody to take over grants and scholarships. So if it did happen, it would happen after that person was employed. And the other 2 scholarships that council does happen at the end of each year. So the timing would be probably the end of the year. So if you want to have a think about whether you still want to do that and wait, or if you would rather do something more quickly, there's a lot of other options, things like naming things, putting a plaque somewhere, renaming a street, like the Tekapo Community Board asked to rename a street to remember a former mayor from Tekapo. So there's been a few things like that done in the past. Perhaps I could leave it with the community board, and if you want to continue with the suggestion of a scholarship, I'll follow that up with Angela again and keep asking.
Thanks, Arlene. I think the preference would be that we do have the scholarship. I think it's more about just knowing whether we're actually able to do it, not when it happens. Obviously, with this being election year as well, I'm not sure what Ange and Damo are thinking, but you know, it would be nice to, if we're not going to sit again, at least get it finalised before we're no longer on the community board, if that's what happens. And we do have some other thoughts about how we might acknowledge Les within the community as well. So we can share those with you once we've had a chinwag about it. Thanks, Arlene.
Yes, if, normally scholarships are managed by Sam, the Mayor's PA, so I could ask her about it, but I guess I'm just, yeah, I haven't had a firm yes or no from Angela yet, so.
We acknowledge that it's a lot of money that we're asking council to front up, but yeah, but we can, it's okay, we can just.
It's not, I don't think the money's the problem. I just think that it seems really busy, and scholarships are administratively quite a burden. So
I absolutely agree that when the new grants officer is on, that it could happen when that happens. It's just maybe making sure, you know, a firm yes or no, no, it can't happen, yes, it can, and then we can just wait until the appropriate person's in the place to administer.
Okay, I will ask for a firm yes or no.
Cool, thanks, Arlene.
Yep, thanks for that. Other than that, I think everything else pretty well been covered off.
Do we need to do anything about a new member, or, well, we haven't got a new member, obviously.
Yeah, so I can probably add to that a little bit. The other person, we had 2 people. Unfortunately, they've both declined the requests for their own personal reasons, obviously. So as a board, when we met last week, we thought with the time frame leading into the new local body elections coming up, we were probably just going to proceed with the board as is at this point. Cool. Oh well, there's nothing else to add, and we've covered everything off. Yeah, I'll like to thank you all for your time. Thanks to Ange for running the meeting in my absence at the start, and declare the meeting closed.
Yeah, I'll just say, Damon, just before everyone goes, that as far as we're concerned as council, I'll probably put my neck out a wee bit and say we'll give you all the support, recognise you're one man down, but we will give you all the support we possibly can, and appreciate